How hard is it to get hired by Securitas, and what does this mean for the industry? If you go to Google right now and look up what it's really like to get hired by one of the largest private security contractors in the world, you will see the exact same phrase pop up from employees across the country. They call it a warm body company. If you can pass a basic background check, a drug test, and an automated online assessment, your odds of getting in the door are practically guaranteed. In fact, if you browse online forums right now, you'll see current supervisors telling desperate job seekers that if they apply to a handful of sites, there is a 99.9% chance they will be hired within a week because the company is so severely short-staffed. But today, on the Watchdog series, we have to ask a much bigger question. What does a warm body hiring strategy actually mean for the security industry? And what does it mean for the clients who trust them? Operating a global corporation this way tells you exactly what the priority is: volume and profit margins. They frequently underbid local contracts, offering municipal facilities, hospitals, and retail hubs cheap rates that specialized, high-standard firms simply can't compete with. But to make a profit on those lowball bids, corporate has to keep frontline wages low and management completely disconnected. That's why you see them sitting at a mediocre 3.0 on Glassdoor, with endless complaints from guards about disjointed communication between corporate HR and the operational managers on the ground. And when a company underbids a contract, who pays the price? The officer on the ground. As we covered in our earlier episodes, underbidding means a client facility expects the world and corporate expects a single guard to deliver it. What type of security firm operates by offering over 30 different unwritten jobs in one uniform? Across the 3 local sites I covered, that averages out to 10 entirely different job descriptions per site, from facility maintenance to freight logistics and high liability medical assists. And trust me, I left out many duties that we will be diving into in future episodes. When a company relies strictly on a warm body model just to cash a check on a contract, they lose all quality control. They become so desperate to keep slots filled that standard workplace rules completely disintegrate. Let me give you 3 concrete examples of what this desperation looks like in the real world. First, let's talk about the desperation to fire. At the hospital site, we had an officer who openly refused to follow direct orders. This individual literally wore bells around their ankles while on duty, routinely stole juice boxes from the floor to give to patients because they claimed the nurses were too busy to do it, and brought a personal crockpot into a clinical zone without an electrical safety check. In a high-stakes hospital environment, that is a massive hazard. The nurses and staff complain constantly. In a normal company, you're fired on the spot. But Securitas was so desperate for a uniform in that slot that they allegedly couldn't afford to let a body go, so they just transferred them to another site to become someone else's problem. At another site, an officer reached their breaking point and quit. We were down to a skeleton crew, and absolutely nobody wanted the open shifts. Instead of processing the termination paperwork like a normal corporate HR department, management panicked. They held the paperwork, begged the officer to come back, and it is heavily suspected they restored their full pay, vacation, and benefits just to get them back on the schedule. When losing one body collapses your entire operational plan, your business model is broken. But third, let's look at my own story. The desperation to hire. When I applied, I decided to be 100% honest. I told the recruiter up front that I had quit smoking pot just a week prior. I asked them directly, look, if I get a medical card, am I allowed to smoke? They told me no. I asked, what about CBD? They said, sure, that's fine. Then came the drug screen. Now, in a serious security industry tasked with protecting public safety, you'd think a drug screening would be strictly monitored to ensure the absolute integrity of the force. Right. Wrong. They handed me the oral swab kit, the testing device you put in your mouth, and then they walked out of the room. They left me completely alone with the test. Now, I didn't cheat. I sat there, took the test honestly, waited, and passed. But the reality is anyone could have easily cheated that system. Securitas loves to talk about integrity as one of their core corporate pillars. But leaving an applicant entirely unmonitored with a drug screen tells you everything you need to know about their actual standards. They don't want a rigorous screening process. They just want an easy pass so they can get another body into an underbid slot. Is that what they mean by having integrity? I won't bother asking Securitas management that question. When you hire a warm body and force them into complex, high-stakes environments without dedicated, specialized support, you aren't running a professional security firm. You're running a corporate temp agency that trades worker exploitation for contract volume. My question to my fellow security officers, healthcare workers, or anyone else out there watching this is simple. Do these all look like security jobs to you? At what point does a security badge just become an excuse for a company to use you as cheap all-in-one labor? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced this kind of corporate underbidding or loose hiring practices in your line of work? Let us know. And if you have a story from a contract site that you want to share privately, email me at rosenhookpublishing@gmail.com for total anonymity. Stay tuned, because in the coming weeks, we are going to start breaking down these specific local facilities one by one. Keep your eyes open, stay loud, and I'll see you in the next one.